Hi, welcome to my channel, Retirement After a Heart Transplant. If this is your first time here, my name is Alan. Today's episode is going to be titled, Can I Go on a Cruise After a Heart Transplant? I'll say real briefly that I did a very short video a few weeks ago about packing for a cruise, because we were in fact packing for a cruise. In hindsight, I probably should have waited and done this larger video about cruising in general. But suffice to say that whether you are facing a transplant, maybe even if you've had a transplant, or if you're just curious about heart transplants, there are often questions about, well, what can I do? What are my limitations after heart transplant? Some people think that you're just completely limited. There's not much you can do. If they think that, they haven't met anybody who's had a heart transplant and had a successful heart transplant. Because as I've said in other videos, we have very few limitations. If you've had a good turnout with the heart transplant. Also want to say that I recognize that not everyone has a good turnout from a heart transplant. There are people who did not have good outcomes, may still be suffering through various kinds of issues you can have after a heart transplant. So my videos are based on my personal experience, and I'm no expert, but fortunately I did have a good outcome. I'm almost 13 years out from my transplant, and I'm doing very well. I have felt better in the last, 13 or so years than I had in the previous 15 or 20. It's hard to quantify that because prior to the heart transplant, although I was very sick, your body adjusts to problems, and you just kind of learn to live with it. And you don't realize how bad you feel until you feel good again. So just to qualify it, not everybody has that outcome, but I did. Short answer to to the title, can you go on a cruise? Well, yes, you certainly can. Just like you can do almost anything else you want to do, as long as you make proper preparations and take certain precautions. First and foremost, and I've already touched on this, if your overall health permits you to do it, whether that be your outcome from transplant or other health issues that you may have that would prevent you from taking a cruise. And of course, there are all sorts of things that people deal with in that regard. I just want to talk a little bit about it. Consult your heart transplant team if you're unsure about whether you are healthy enough to take a cruise, or if you want to get some advice from them about that. I think it's a good idea also to let your heart transplant team know you're taking a cruise. Now, that being said, I'm already in trouble because I did not contact my team before this last 10-day cruise that my wife and I took. Only the second cruise we've ever taken in our life, even though we've been together 50 years and have traveled a lot. We never cruised. Last year we went with a fellow heart transplant friend, with a couple, and had a great time. And so I guess you could say we're more or less hooked. We went again this year. We'll probably go again in the future. So consult with your heart transplant team if you're not sure about your overall health. Some of the concerns that would be associated with going on a cruise, they're very similar to being around any crowd of people. Being around large numbers of people exposes you to the potential for more illness, viruses, airborne things, whatnot. And naturally, that happens anywhere. You go to the buffet, and any place. You go to church, and you're going to be exposed to more people. So that's something that you've just got to be conscious of. And if you're a transplant, you probably are already conscious of that, and you're taking the appropriate precautions, whatever they might be in your case, depending on your health situation. On a cruise, the difference is you can't just get up and go home. Or if you're sitting in church, you can. If you're not comfortable being around people, or a lot of people are coughing, there's a lot of sickness in this group that you're around, well, you just quietly and politely exit and go home. Can't do that on a cruise. You're kind of stuck for the duration of the cruise. Another thing you have to watch out for is just, maintain a healthy eating style to the best of your ability. As everyone knows, if they know anything about cruises, one of the big deals with cruises is the food. There is so much food. so many different kinds of food. So you have to watch yourself to not overeat. I have heard, I've heard that people gain anywhere from 6 to 7 or 8 pounds on the average cruise, and it's primarily because of eating, maybe because of sitting around. It depends on what you do on your cruise. My wife and I certainly did not sit around on our cruise this year or last year. We walked a lot, whether it was on the boat or whether on ports of call. We did a lot of walking, so we didn't do that. By the way, last year I think I might have gained about 3 pounds on the cruise. It wasn't much. That was an 8-day cruise. This year it was a 10-day cruise. I didn't gain any weight at all. I don't know how, but I didn't, because I certainly ate more than my normal diet. Exotic foods sometimes on buffets, or it might be something else you have to just be aware of. Whether it's just that your body is not accustomed to processing those kind of exotic foods, or whatever the reason. That's something just to be aware of. Um, uh, I've already touched on the fact that there's an increase for infection because of the large numbers of people you're around. Also, because of being in exotic locations. You may be in an island location that is known for having certain types of viruses or other illnesses that you have to be prepared for. That could involve, getting a vaccination prior to going. That could involve just being extra cautious while you're at those ports of call, on those islands, wherever you are. So, that's all tied together with the suppressed immune system you have as a heart transplant. And, the risk of getting sick and becoming ill is greater. Additional preparations before you go on a cruise. Be sure you're up to date on your vaccinations, whatever they may be. Also, look into what additional vaccinations might be required or recommended if you go to certain locations. You can probably find some of those things out from your heart transplant team. The U.S. Department of State publishes such information. There are other places you can find on the internet. So be sure you're up to date on your vaccinations. Take plenty of medications, extra medications. As I say, expect the best, but plan for the worst. If you're on a 10-day cruise, uh, in my case, I'll just tell you how it is. I took about 10 weeks worth of medicine. That's just how I am. I'm very cautious, and I try to be very prepared. I'm not suggesting everyone should do that take that much, but certainly take more than just a few days worth of extra medicine, because you don't know what might take place while you're on the cruise. Have a list of your medications and your doctors, your physicians, your medical contact information. Have a list of that with you somewhere. I would recommend that you laminate that and have it with you. There are other things you have to have. You got to have your passport. They recommend a copy of your passport as well, driver's license. We took those things. We just have them laminated. We did that last year, took them again this year. That has nothing to do with transplants, but take a list of medications and your medical contacts in case you need those. During the cruise, I've already touched on it, but try to maintain a healthy diet as best you can. Continue to get some exercise, just move, whatever way that you wish to do that. Stay hydrated. Particularly if you're going on a southern cruise, as we have done for our first 2 cruises. We went to the Caribbean, and it's warmer there, it's drier there, and if you're not careful, you can easily become dehydrated, which, by the way, is something I just have to watch out for anyway. For whatever reason, it's easy for me to become dehydrated. I drink a lot of fluids, and in the summer when I'm out working in the yard and sweating and that kind of thing, I drink a lot of fluids, but I have to be careful about that. On a cruise, particularly if you're in hot weather climates, stay hydrated. Be mindful of your activity levels and avoid overexertion. Don't just because you're having a great time, don't begin to feel like you're 30 again or whatever age you want to pick. I'm 71, and think that you can just do anything and enjoy all these wonderful, fun things. Maybe you can. But be aware of your limitations. You probably already know them, but you may run to some things that surprise you on your cruise, particularly if you're doing shore excursions and getting into activities like that. So be careful of that while you're on your cruise. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about it. As I said, my wife and I just got back from a 10-day cruise. It was great. I did get a little dehydrated once or twice, and I took care of that by drinking, plenty of water. Um, it's a great time if you're able to go. If you're heart transplant, you're able to take a cruise and you're interested in it. I encourage you to look into it. However you wish to, talk to your transplant team, talk to friends that have been on cruises. In my case, I had a heart transplant friend who had been cruising before, and he gave me a lot of good information. So if you're interested, I encourage you to go after it. And the same holds true for anything you want to do in this life and this extra overtime that you've been given. Enjoy it to the fullest, whatever that means for you. It may not be cruising. There's so many things you can do in life, but I just encourage you to look into that and anything that you want to try to do. So with that, I appreciate you stopping by today. I hope you found something enjoyable or interesting in my video. I would appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe to my channel. So other than that, again, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.